Hey everyone, this is Monica Staneda, and this is a video recorded live for the 9 Steps to Feng Shui Tribe, which is my private Facebook group. And today I want to share with you about the importance of using rituals in Feng Shui. Very soon I'm going to be offering a teleclass on 7 super important rituals that you should incorporate into your life. And so this recording is an introduction to that. Now, if you think about Feng Shui comes from China. The Feng Shui originated in China. Then from China, it was exported to all the other Asian countries like Vietnam, Thailand, Japan, Korea, Taiwan. And in each of those countries, it kind of got braided with the cultural beliefs of every place. And unfortunately, also with some superstitions that have give people the impression now that Feng Shui is kind of like in the realm of the magical, and which takes away from the credibility of Feng Shui. But the origin of Feng Shui is China, and Feng Shui developed alongside with Taoism, which is the Chinese, some people associate Buddhism with China, but Buddhism is from India. A lot of Buddhism developed in China, but it was originally imported from India. And so Taoism is the belief system that is actually sprouted in China. And so ancient Chinese medicine, also known as traditional Chinese medicine, Feng Shui and Taoism, they developed together through the thousands of years, right? And they were part of a culture where rituals were very important. One thing in Chinese culture is ancestor worship. And you will see that there's in their culture, they believe that if your ancestors are not resting well, that if they're not happy in the afterlife, that's going to bring bad luck to their descendants. So they do all sorts of things to make sure that their ancestors are well tended to. That includes, and that is why Feng Shui, one of the first things that Feng Shui masters did was make sure that they could find burial places where the remains of ancestors could stay there for eons, right? Nothing more unlucky than starting a cemetery in a place that's going to have floods later on, and then the remains of great-grandmother go away. That would be considered super unlucky. To give you an idea, there's a very old black and white movie. It's a horror movie made in China, and it's about vampires. And so the vampires, they rise from their tombs and they hop because they're rigid, right? Since dead people are rigid, they don't have flexibility in their joints, so they hop. And once they rise from their tombs in the movie, they go after their descendants for burying them with improper Feng Shui. That's the thing. And so ancestor worship was super, super important. Now that we have, with modern science, we understand there's family systems. It's one of the new practices that have become popular in the later years. And there's all sorts of healing therapies and techniques associated with family dynamics that study how our ancestors are affecting us. For example, there was a study done on the children of people who grew up during the Depression, and they found that these children had the same anxiety about money that people had who grew up during the Depression. And even some of their grandchildren, even though they had never experienced hardship in their whole lives, they had the same anxiety about money, which means somehow they inherited that anxiety about money. One of the things, is in China, they had this practice of ancestor worship, and they believe that you have to keep your ancestors happy in order for your family for you and your descendants to have happiness in your life. And so this was part of the culture. And now we're discovering in the West, through different types of studies and different therapies, that we don't just inherit physical traits, we also inherit mental patterns, and we inherit emotional patterns. And so this puts ancestor worship in a whole other light. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because I'm going to have a teleclass coming up and I'm going to be sharing 7 super important Feng Shui rituals you should be incorporating into your life. And some of those rituals are associated to receiving an estate. Some of my clients who have signed up for my course on decluttering, Declutter for Good, the people who have taken the longest decluttering are the people who were dealing with estates, like one of their mom or their dad passed away, and then they were left with a full household of things that they kind of crammed in the garage or their basement, and then they're having to let go of. And the thing is, it's virtually impossible for a person to let go of things that they have inherited from their ancestors without ritual. If you do it without ritual, you are likely going to do things in a way that is not positive for you or your family. So I want to share with you an example of a ritual that you can do when decluttering. In our household, we keep a golden bag. And so we keep a golden bag, and in that golden bag, we put all the invitations that we get and the greeting cards that we get for birthdays and anniversaries and things like that. And we put them in this bag and keep them there for the whole year. And at the end of the year, we go to a place. Now we're not within city limits, we're in the county. So there's a place where you have to take everything that you want to recycle in the trash. So we go there and we say a prayer. And we say we are thankful for what the contents of this bag represents, for all the love that was sent to us, for all the people who remembered us, for the events we were invited to. You can also include tickets to the theater and things like that, or special shows and concerts. We are grateful for the time that we spent together. We're grateful for the love. And what we're going to let go of is the paper. So we keep the love, we keep the experiences, we keep the memories, but we let go of the paper. And that's one ritual that you can use to declutter, because those are really difficult things to declutter. Another thing that's super difficult to declutter is if you have kids, the drawings that your kids make for you, you want to keep every single one of them because they're so cute. And so you need rituals for that. And then when you have received heirlooms from your relatives, and sometimes it's not from relatives, sometimes it's from friends. You may be the closest friend to somebody who has passed on and who didn't have any family or who didn't want to leave things to their family. And now you have to sort through all these things and stuff. And so you need to have these rituals for many of these things so that you can let them go. And another ritual you're going to see in every movie that you see, on every book that you read about people in China or Hong Kong, Taiwan, you'll see that they reserve a certain place in their house. They reserve it for photos of their ancestors. And sometimes they light a candle or they have incense over there. That is a really healthy practice. Now, photographs are kind of recent, right? These customs are thousands of years old, but photographs are recent. And so what they did before is they would write with calligraphy, they would write the name of the person, and they would have these altars where they kept these little pieces of rice paper with calligraphy that represented their ancestors. And so one of the things we do also, for your deeper mind, your you could say like the right side of your brain, the one that's not so analytical, there's the people you have loved who have passed on are still here. There's no, they have not left. Your analytical mind recognizes, okay, they've passed on, they dropped their bodies, they're no longer here. But for the more instinctive, intuitive part of your mind, they're always here. They haven't parted, they're always here. And so one of the things that we do, and I have a course that puts a lot of attention on what to do regarding photos, photos of family all over the house, where it's okay to put certain photos, where you shouldn't put other photos. But it comes with these templates that you create so that you can create this place of photographs so that you can honor your ancestors and at the same time establish clear and healthy energetic boundaries with your living relatives. That's another one of the rituals that we do in the 9 Steps to Feng Shui, is that we have certain rules for photos that we use to make sure that boundaries are respected and that people are not creating new opportunities to have to be forgiven or to have to forgive, right? And so that's another thing where you have rituals. We have some rituals, and this ritual I have only shared with customers, with clients before, I've never put it in a course, but this time I want to put it in the course. So I can't tell you all the details now, but I'll tell you the gist of it, right? And it is a ritual to let go of love that you don't want to let go of, or it is a ritual to let go of children who need to be given their independence. You know, a lot of my clients that contact me are struggling with children, and so sometimes it's the parents are trying to reach out to their children who want nothing to do with them. And in other cases, it's the children who are estranged from the parents. But I get a lot of that. And most of the time, you know, the children, it's easier for the children to say, okay, I don't get along with my parents, I'm just going to go live my own life, right? But for the parent, it's not so easy. You know, you can just say, I'm going to forget my children, let them go live their own lives. And so, but sometimes you have to, because your child may need that independence. Your child may not be willing to interact with you, you know, which is a really sad thing, but it happens. So we have these rituals to let go of love, of a lover, right? And we also have these rituals to let go of other relatives. It could be your children, it could be siblings, it could be parents. When you realize that they're not in a place where they can reconcile with you, especially if you have any family members who were abusive to you in the past and who, if you gave them the chance today, would still be abusive. And so sometimes you cannot reconcile with them, because reconciling with them means that they would trigger all your issues. And so we have rituals for that, and they're really beautiful. You know, you use a stream or a river, and there's a certain thing that you prepare, and you put it inside a red pepper. And so that's another ritual. Another ritual that is super important that most people ignore is when you move. So this can be when you move into a home, you need to have rituals. And when you move out of a home, you need to have rituals. You establish a house is not necessarily a home. An apartment or a condo is not necessarily a home. It's a home is a hybrid being, it's a symbiotic being that is made by the building and the charging of the energy of the people who live in that building. And so you establish a relationship with the home that is not very different from the relationship that a small child will establish with their favorite toy or their favorite blanket. You know, like if a child has a favorite toy and that toy gets lost, and you replace it with one that looks just like it, they're going to know, you know, it's not going to be the same, and the loss is going to be the same for them. And so we establish that kind of a relationship from a home. When you leave that home, it's less when you're renting or leasing. When you have bought a home and then you have to sell it, it's stronger. But it feels some kind of betrayal. You know, you feel like you're betraying the home by leaving, and you may feel like the home is going to feel abandoned by leaving. And then when you move into a new place, you move into this new place, which is foreign to you, and the place has the energy from the previous occupants there. In Feng Shui, there's this concept that is going to take about 3 years for the owners of a previous place to start affecting you if you do not make changes. So you gotta make changes. It doesn't mean, you know, if a couple divorce in a home that you're moving into, it doesn't mean that you're going to divorce. But it does mean that probably it has issues in the relationship corner that you have to resolve so that you don't suffer the same fate as the people who lived there before. And so one ritual that you can have to leave a home where you're at right now is to talk to the home as if it was a being. You know how people say the earth is a living being and we call that being Gaia and all that. So you can give your home a name, right? And the name could be the address, or you could give it a more creative name, and you can talk to the home. And you can start by saying thank you. Now, thank you to the home, and you can talk about, okay, you know, we have greeted so many people we love in the foyer. And I say goodbye to my children going to school every morning. And we have really enjoyed taking baths in the garden tub. And all the stories we have read to the children in the bedroom. And all the visitors we had in our living room, all the movies we watched in our family room. And so you thank the home for the things, the happiness that the home has helped you create, the contribution of the home to your happiness. So you say thanks, try and think about every corner. Then I do recommend that you do a clearing of the home. This clearing can be done. The easiest way to do it is to play one of the Angelic Feng Shui recordings that you can find on my training site. The other way that you can do it is by learning to do the Tibetan clearing. I also have a teleclass on my training site. I'll be sharing those links later, where you can learn how to do a clearing of a home. Now, when you move into a new home, you also need to do a clearing of that home to make sure the energy of the previous participants, the previous inhabitants of the home is cleared. And you need to do it in a way that is kind of selective, because you kind of want to keep the good energy from the occupants. Now, you can't always know who has lived in a home before you moved into it. But if you can, if you can find some information from the neighbors about who lived there before, then that gives you an idea of what you want to keep or not. The best homes to move into, if you're renting or leasing, are homes where the people left that home because they bought their own home. Because a place where something has happened is likely that that will happen again, right? And so if you go to a home where the people lived there for a little while and then they were able to buy their own home, move to a better, nicer home, then that is a home that is already charged for success in that particular area of life. And so as you pack, make sure you don't take trash with you. Like some people pack their trash very carefully, then they transport it somewhere else, they unpack it, and they put it away very carefully. So make sure you're not putting away trash. And some people use this trick of the mind saying, okay, if I lost this in a fire, would I go out of my way to try and replace it? So that's one good way to think about it. But don't take with you anything that you don't use and anything that you don't love. Moving actually gives you an awesome opportunity to declutter and make yourself lighter. And so if you have children, you also need to talk with the children. Children can jinx your plans to move. Don't I know it? So I wanted to move 2 or 3 years ago. There was a really good opportunity, a really good house in a neighborhood in Knoxville that I like very much more than where I live, because it's a more diverse area. It's more cultural. We live in the boondocks, it was an awesome idea to live in the boondocks when the children were little. I wanted fresh air for them. I wanted a quiet neighborhood and stuff. But as they grow older, I feel disconnected from the city, and I would like to be closer to the city. And everything was going well, and we thought we were going to move, and then it didn't happen. And when I sat down to talk with the children, I knew that they jinxed it because they didn't want to leave the neighbor. They have a neighbor that is so cute. Because of these things, that can happen, you need to talk to the children, and you also need to talk to your pets, because sometimes your pets, especially dogs, will get very, very attached to a space. And so you need to make sure, you talk with them in your mind, right? And explain to them and paint for them a mental image picture of how much happiness there's going to be in the other home. For example, if you're moving to a place with better weather, you can send like mental image pictures, like flashes of photographs to your pet, saying bigger backyard, more sunshine, more things to play with, right? More outside time. And so curtains in Feng Shui, having window treatments is super important. It doesn't matter how beautiful the view, you need curtains or window treatments, right? And so one ritual that you can have when you move to a new place is putting up curtains, because that's one of the first things that you should be doing when you move to another home, is to put up curtains. Unless you're moving, you could move into an apartment or a condo that has blinds already and there's nothing you can do about it. But even then you could have balances or something, but I had read actually about a military family, that had to move every 2 years. And wherever they moved, the mom always put up the same curtains in the living room. So the other curtains in other rooms might change, but in the living room, they were always the same curtains. So it didn't matter where they moved when they were home hopping, right, from being in the military. They always had this feeling that this is our living room with these curtains. And so you can come up with something that you want to do when you first move. What do you want to do? How are you going to establish roots in the new place? Those are also rituals. If you have trees in your property, trees in Feng Shui are considered the people of the vegetable kingdom, the plant kingdom. And so you need to say goodbye to the trees. In Feng Shui, in Taoism, Tai Chi, and all that, it's recommended that you sit under a tree often, and then you ask for the advice of the tree. And so sitting down to meditate under a tree is a really good idea. If you have trees, especially if you have trees you love in the property where you live, say goodbye to the trees. And as you come to the new home, I feel like I'm sounding more woo-woo as the minutes go by. When you come to the new place, introduce yourself to the trees that are already there, right? So the idea is to be polite as if they were people, because in a way they're people. In Feng Shui, we consider that humans and trees are connectors of heaven and earth. People connect heaven to the earth, and trees connect the earth to the heavens. And so that's important. So if you have questions about other rituals, let me know. You can unmute yourselves, or you can ask questions through the chat. So basically, this tradition, these rituals of addressing family issues and hierarchy through photographs is really important. And so that is one ritual that you definitely need to bring into your home, is to do arrangements of photographs that are going to mean something. There's a lot of movies about families, like those Hallmark movies or Lifetime Channel movies. They start with a panning of the camera that's showing you the living room and the photos they have, and those photos tell a story. There's the same thing in your home. So you need to learn how to tell stories. And so I'm going to be having soon, a teleclass on rituals, and I'm going to be sharing 7 rituals that you could incorporate into your home to be happier and to be more in tune with the deep meaning of life. But I also have a course that has cures on how to heal your inner child, how to create healthy boundaries with family members, especially in-laws or exes. And that course also teaches you everything that you need to know about Feng Shui and photos of people, where to put photos of people and where not to put photos of people. Then there's other courses that are coming up. So Black Friday is coming up, and I'm going to have some deep discounts for Black Friday. So stay in tune for that.